Good evening. Well, Christmas is coming up on us fairly quickly. And now is a good time to make plans for where you're going to donate your money. And you know what I say, although these metal detectors, I don't believe are going to fall underneath the jargon of a tax credit or write-off because they haven't been sanctioned by the state. It's what's in your heart that counts. And like I said, if you could spend 15 or 20 minutes with one of these high school kids, you would realize how important these things could actually be, because to stop a killer in his tracks is what we're looking to do. At least that's what I'm proposing that we do. And in doing that, we create jobs. I mean, there have to be an army of people installing these things, moving them around the country or around Texas. I say what goes in Texas, so goes the rest of the country. But let's at least try them out in Texas and see how we do. We don't. I know that they had that shooting in Austin. It was Austin that they had the tower shooting, and that was the first time that had ever happened. So we closed that tower down, and nobody is allowed to go into that tower ever again. Well, that's a little more difficult. Of course, we could put a metal detector on the front of it and open it back up to the people again. I would imagine that people would pay a certain amount of money to go back up into this thing and give us our life back, so that we're not afraid of walking in to, well, a school. Mothers walk into schools to pick up their daughters or their sons, and this is how it's done in a lot of places. And when they're inside, they're fully protected because they've passed through a metal detector. Now, I grant you, the more gaudy things that are going to set the metal detectors off will have to go by the wayside. But really, do we need all this gaudy stuff that's going to set these detectors off? Do we need them? No, we don't. And kids, do we need I don't know how many kids are carrying a can of ravioli to school, but couldn't we put it in a Tupperware container? They seem to be fairly cheap and reusable, and wouldn't it be better to house it in that where you could put your seasoning and different stuff that you might like to add to your meal in that, instead of having a steel can you've got to open up, which I don't think anybody does that anymore anyway. I think that's gone by the by. Back in 1976, I think that had gone by the by then too. But we still had those little hot dogs that had plenty of hot sauce on them, or you know, barbecue sauce anyway. I sure did love those little things. That and mac and cheese. We had plenty of that then, back then there too. So these things are all good. And if we can do this, if we can get enough people interested in it, maybe Greg Abbott would be attuned to this. I realize he has a humongous problem with the border crisis right now, and people from Mexico aren't coming up here going to walk in and start shooting our children. But it's the stress that's put on the collective of us all that seems to be dominating the headlines. It's like, well, today this and this happened, and it's like then tomorrow, because of what happened today, tomorrow there seems to be another reaction. And if we could just get away from the reactionary thing, that's one good thing about having a newspaper, is you have a newspaper, and well, it might sit around for a couple of days where you were reading it, and you might get the information a couple of days later, and it wasn't this instant, all of a sudden hit you in the face type news that's happening. And of course, Uvalde, they tried to keep a lid on it, mainly because there was some mistakes made down there. I don't know if we'll ever hear the full story about what happened down there, but it was a big mess to begin with, and no small town police force is ready to take on an individual that they have no idea what they're thinking or what they're doing or what their plans are. But of course we are kind of aware that what their plans are is taking people's lives. And when I say people, I mean kids mainly, whether it's because of the video design games, or whether it's because they just want to get back at somebody, there's a reason, and we're not hearing the reasons. They seem to be hidden from us, and that needs to come to an end. We need to know why these problems are started in the first place. And that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out myself and get my head around it so that maybe we can figure out what we can do to end these kind of problems. Well, I'll end it here. I hope that your life is merry and jolly, and that Christmas finds you well. And from Pilot Point, Texas, our little town that Bonnie and Clyde drove through back in 1442. No, I'm joking. I think it was 1927 or something like that. We had cars. So they came through. They definitely came through in a car. But they came to see some of their friends, and we reenact that every summertime, and that is basically our claim to fame. So I want to say thank you for watching and putting up with old man who hasn't really done a whole lot of fact checking on things that he's talking about, but he does have a heart where his heart ought to go, at least for the moment anyway. So, thank you very much, and have a good evening.